The rain battered the windows of our Brooklyn apartment, a relentless drumbeat that matched the pounding in my chest. I was alone with Ryan, my sister's boyfriend, and the air between us crackled with something I couldn't name. By the time the night was over, everything I thought I knew about love, family, and myself would be shattered. My name is Ethan Carter, 24, a barista with dreams of being a writer, living in a cramped two-bedroom with my older sister, Miah. She's 27, fierce, with a laugh that could light up a room and a heart that trusted too easily. Miah had been dating Ryan for a year, and I'd spent that year trying not to notice the way his green eyes lingered on me when she wasn't looking. Ryan, 26, was the kind of guy who could charm anyone broad shoulders, a crooked smile, and a voice that felt like it was meant for late-night confessions. But he was hers. He was supposed to be hers. That night, Miah was halfway across the country, visiting our mom in Chicago. She'd been gone 3 days, and the apartment felt too quiet without her. Ryan had come over to check on me, he said, though I suspected he was just bored. We'd always gotten along too well. Maybe. Our conversations had a rhythm, a spark that made me forget he was off limits. But tonight, something was different. The air felt heavy, like the moment before a storm breaks. Ethan, you ever think about what you're running from? Ryan asked, sprawled on the couch, a beer in his hand. His tone was casual, but his eyes were locked on mine, searching. I froze, my own beer halfway to my lips. What's that supposed to mean? I shot back, trying to keep my voice light. I was sitting cross-legged on the floor, the coffee table between us littered with empty takeout containers. The rain outside roared louder, drowning out the city's usual hum. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his gaze unrelenting. You're always writing in that notebook, but you never share it. You're here, but you're not here. Like you're scared to let anyone see you. My throat tightened. He wasn't wrong. I'd spent years hiding me dreams, my fears, the part of me that didn't fit into the neat box of Mia's little brother. I'd known I was gay since I was 16, but I'd only told Miah, and even then, I kept it quiet, like a secret I wasn't sure I deserved to own. Ryan's words cut too close, and I hated how easily he saw through me. Maybe I just don't trust people, I said, forcing a smirk. Not everyone's as open as you, Mr. Perfect. He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. Perfect. Nah. I'm a mess. Ethan. You just don't see it yet. The room felt smaller, the space between us shrinking. I stood, needing to move, to break whatever was building. You want another beer? I asked, heading for the kitchen. My hands were shaking, and I prayed he didn't notice. Sure, he said, his voice softer now. I grabbed 2 bottles from the fridge, the cold glass grounding me. When I turned back, he was standing, closer than I expected. Too close. The apartment's dim light caught the stubble on his jaw, the faint scar above his eyebrow. I handed him the beer, our fingers brushing for a split second. It was nothing. It was everything. Ethan, he said, his voice low, like he was afraid of what came next. Can I ask you something? My heart slammed against my ribs. What? He stepped closer, the beer forgotten in his hand. Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Like you're playing a part, but it's not you? I couldn't breathe. His words echoed something I'd felt for years, something I'd never said out loud. I wanted to laugh it off, to change the subject, but his eyes held me in place. Ryan, you're with Miah, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You can't. I know. He interrupted, his voice breaking. I know I'm with her, but I can't stop thinking about you. The world stopped. The rain, the city, my own heartbeat, it all faded. There was only Ryan, inches away, his breath warm and uneven. I should have pushed him away. I should have told him to leave. But I didn't. I stood there, frozen, as he closed the distance and kissed me. It was desperate, reckless, like we'd both been holding our breath for too long. His hands found my face, and I kissed him back, guilt and want twisting together until I couldn't tell them apart. The apartment, the rain, Mia's empty room, it all disappeared. For one impossible moment, it was just us. Then reality crashed in. I pulled back, my hands on his chest, pushing him away. We can't, I gasped. Miah? She's my sister. She loves you. Ryan's face crumpled, his eyes glassy. I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, he stopped, running a hand through his hair. I don't know what I'm doing. Ethan. I feel something with you. Something real. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him to leave and never come back. But more than anything, I wanted to kiss him again. And that terrified me. The rest of the night was a blur. Ryan left, mumbling apologies, and I sat on the couch until dawn, staring at the rain. Miah would be back in 2 days. I had to tell her. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe I could pretend it never happened. But deep down, I knew nothing would ever be the same. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and the weight of what I'd done. My notebook lay open on the coffee table, pages filled with half-finished stories I'd never share. Ryan's words from last night echoed in my head. You're scared to let anyone see you. He was right, and I hated him for it. I avoided my phone, afraid of a text from him. Or worse, from Miah. She'd called yesterday, her voice bright and oblivious, telling me about Mom's new garden and how she missed us. I'd mumbled through the conversation, guilt gnawing at me. Now, it was a full-blown monster, clawing at my chest. How could I face her? How could I look into her eyes and pretend I hadn't betrayed her? The apartment was too quiet, the silence pressing against me. I grabbed my jacket and headed to the cafe where I worked, hoping the chaos of the morning rush would drown out my thoughts. The streets of Brooklyn were slick from last night's rain, reflecting the gray sky. I pulled my hood up, trying to disappear into the crowd. At the cafe, I threw myself into steaming milk and pulling espresso shots. But Ryan's face kept flashing in my mind's eyes. His voice, the way his lips felt against mine. I burned my hand on the steamer wand, cursing under my breath as my coworker, Lila, raised an eyebrow. You okay, Ethan? She asked, wiping down the counter. Lila was 19, with pink hair and a knack for reading people. She'd been my friend since I started working here, but I wasn't ready to spill my guts. Yeah, just clumsy. I lied, forcing a smile. She didn't buy it, but she let it go, handing me a towel to wrap my hand. The day dragged on, each hour heavier than the last. By the time my shift ended, I was exhausted, but I couldn't go home. Not yet. I wandered to a park nearby, sitting on a bench under a bare oak tree. Kids ran past, laughing, while their parents watched from a distance. I envied their simplicity, their uncomplicated joy. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and my stomach dropped. It was Ryan. Can we talk? I'm sorry about last night. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of me wanted to ignore him, to block his number and pretend it never happened. But another part of the part that still felt the ghost of his touch wanted answers. I typed back, meet me at the park on 7th. 6 p.m. Short, neutral, safe. But nothing about this felt safe. When Ryan showed up, he looked as wrecked as I felt. His hair was messy, his jacket rumpled, like he hadn't slept either. He sat next to me on the bench, keeping a careful distance. The park was quieter now, The kid's gone. The air cold and sharp. I messed up. He started, staring at the ground. I shouldn't have kissed you. It wasn't fair to you or Miah. Then why did you? My voice was sharper than I meant. But I didn't care. I needed to understand. He exhaled, his breath visible in the chilly air. I've been fighting this for months. Ethan. Every time I'm around you, it's like, I don't know, like I'm waking up. I love Miah. I do. But it's different with you. It's more. His words hit like a punch. I wanted to hate him, to call him a liar. But I couldn't. Because I felt it too. That spark. That pull. Like we were two magnets trying not to collide. But Miah was my sister. She was the one who'd held my hand when our dad left. Who'd stayed up late reading my stories. Who'd loved me even when I didn't love myself. We can't do this, I said, my voice breaking. It'll destroy her. I know, Ryan whispered. But what if we're destroying ourselves by pretending? I stood, needing to move, to escape. You don't get to say that. You don't get to make this my fault. I'm not, he said, standing too. I'm just being honest. For once. I walked away, my hands stuffed in my pockets, his words chasing me. The park blurred around me, the world tilting. I didn't know what was worse, the guilt of what we'd done or the part of me that wanted to do it again. Miah came home the next day, her suitcase rattling against the apartment's hardwood floor. She hugged me tightly, her perfume familiar and comforting, but it only made the guilt sharper. I forced a smile, hoping she couldn't see the storm inside me. You look like crap, she teased, tossing her bag onto the couch. What did you do while I was gone? Throw a rager. I laughed, but it sounded hollow. Just the usual. Work. Right. Repeat. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did, but she was too tired to press. She launched into stories about Chicago, her voice bright and warm. I nodded along, my mind elsewhere. Ryan hadn't texted since the park, and I hadn't reached out either. But his absence felt louder than his presence ever had. That night, Miah invited Ryan over for dinner. The thought of seeing him again made my stomach churn, but I couldn't say no without raising suspicion. When he walked through the door, his eyes flicked to mine for a split second before settling on Miah. He kissed her, and I looked away, busying myself with setting the table. Dinner was torture. Miah was oblivious, laughing and touching Ryan's arm, while he played the perfect boyfriend, charming, attentive, everything she deserved. But every time our eyes met, it was like a current ran through me. I hated him for it. I hated myself more. After dinner, Miah stepped out to take a call from work, leaving Ryan and me alone in the kitchen. I focused on washing dishes, the hot water scalding my hands, grounding me. Ethan, he said quietly, standing too close. We need to figure this out. There's nothing to figure out, I snapped, scrubbing a plate harder than necessary. You're with Miah. End of story. It's not that simple, he said, his voice low. You know it's not. I turned to face him, water dripping from my hands. What do you want, Ryan? To ruin everything. To break her heart. I don't want to hurt her, he said, his eyes pleading. But I can't keep pretending I don't feel this. And neither can you. Before I could respond, Mia's voice cut through the tension. What are you guys whispering about? She was back, leaning against the doorway, her smile teasing but her eyes sharp. Nothing, I said too quickly. Just dishes. She raised an eyebrow but didn't push. Ryan excused himself to the bathroom, and I went back to scrubbing, my heart pounding. Miah sat at the table, scrolling through her phone, oblivious to the war raging inside me. Later, after Ryan left, Miah cornered me in the living room. You sure you're okay? She asked, her voice softer now. You've been weird since I got back. I'm fine. I lied, my throat tight. Just tired. She studied me for a moment, then nodded. Okay. But you know you can tell me anything, right? I nodded, unable to meet her eyes. The weight of my secret was crushing me, and I didn't know how much longer I could carry it. The next week was a tightrope walk. I avoided Ryan, ignoring his texts and dodging plans that involved him. But Miah kept inviting him over, and each time, the tension in the apartment grew thicker. I threw myself into work and writing, filling my notebook with stories of heartbreak and betrayal, each word a confession I couldn't say aloud. One night, I came home late from the cafe, exhausted and raw. Miah was out with friends, and the apartment was dark except for a light in the living room. Ryan was there, sitting on the couch, a book in his lap. My heart stopped. What are you doing here? I demanded, dropping my bag by the door. Miah gave me a key, he said, his voice calm but his eyes intense. I needed to see you. You need to leave, I said, my voice shaking. This can't keep happening. He stood, closing the distance between us. Ethan, I'm not here to push you. I need you to know I'm not playing games. What I feel, it's real. Stop, I said, stepping back. You can't say that. You're with Miah. She loves you. And I love her, he said, his voice breaking. But it's not the same. With you, it's like I can finally breathe. His words were a knife, twisting in my chest. I wanted to scream, to tell him he was wrong, but I couldn't. Because I felt it too. Every time he was near, it was like the world came into focus. But Miah was my family, my anchor. I couldn't betray her again. Get out, I said, my voice barely audible. Please. He hesitated, then nodded, grabbing his jacket. At the door, he turned back. I'll wait, Ethan, until you're ready to be honest with yourself. The door closed, and I sank to the floor, my head in my hands. The apartment felt like a cage, trapping me with my own guilt. I didn't know how to fix this, how to make it right. All I knew was that I was drowning, and there was no one to pull me out. I couldn't keep avoiding the truth. It was eating me alive, tearing at the seams of who I thought I was. I needed to tell Miah, but the thought of her face hurt. Her anger kept me silent. Instead, I wrote. Pages and pages of my notebook filled with the chaos in my head, each word a step closer to understanding myself. One afternoon, Lila caught me scribbling at the cafe during a slow shift. You ever gonna let me read that? She asked, leaning over the counter. Maybe, I said, closing the notebook. It's personal. She smirked. Everything's personal until you share it. Then it's just a story. Her words stuck with me. Maybe that's what I needed to turn this mess into a story, something I could control. But real life wasn't that simple. Miah deserved the truth, not a polished narrative. That night, I found her in the kitchen, cooking pasta, humming to herself. The normalcy of it broke my heart. I took a deep breath. Miah, can we talk? She turned, her smile fading when she saw my face. What's wrong? I couldn't do it. Not yet. Instead, I lied. Just work stuff. I might quit the cafe. Her brow furrowed. Quit. Ethan, you love that place. What's going on? I'm just tired, I said, hating how easily the lie came. I need a change. She hugged me, and I let her, even though I didn't deserve it. You'll figure it out, she said. You always do. but I wasn't so sure. The next day, Ryan texted again, "We need to talk." For real this time. I didn't reply, but I knew I couldn't keep running. I agreed to meet him at a diner across town, far from our usual haunts. The place was greasy and loud, the kind of spot where no one would notice two guys unraveling. He was already there, nursing a coffee, his face drawn. "I'm ending things with Miah," he said. No preamble. I stared at him, my heart racing. "What? Why?" "Because it's not fair to her," he said. "I can't keep pretending I'm someone I'm not. I'm in love with you, Ethan." The words hit like a tidal wave. I wanted to run, to hide, but I was rooted to the spot. You can't do that," I stammered. "She'll hate us. Both of us." "Maybe," he said, his voice steady. "But I'd rather she hate me for being honest than love me for a lie." I left the diner in a daze, his words echoing in my head. I didn't know what was right anymore. All I knew was that the truth was coming, whether I was ready or not. I couldn't sleep that night. Ryan's confession played on a loop, each word carving deeper into my heart. I loved him too, I could admit that now, if only to myself. But love wasn't enough, not when it meant betraying Miah. The next morning, I found her in the living room, curled up with a book. She looked so peaceful, so unaware of the storm I was about to unleash. I sat across from her, my hands trembling. "Miah," I started, my voice barely audible. "I need to tell you something." She looked up, her eyes narrowing. "Okay. You're freaking me out, Ethan. What is it?" I took a deep breath, the words burning in my throat. "Something happened while you were in Chicago. With Ryan." Her face paled, but she didn't speak. I forced myself to keep going. We kissed. It was a mistake, and I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen." The silence was deafening. Mia's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She just stared at me, like she was seeing me for the first time. "You kissed him," she whispered. "My boyfriend." "I'm sorry," I said, my voice breaking. "I didn't want to hurt you. I love you, Miah." She stood, her book falling to the floor. "You love me. You love me. Ethan, you're my brother. How could you do this?" "I don't know," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I'm so sorry." She grabbed her coat and stormed out, the door slamming behind her. I sank onto the couch, my world collapsing. I'd told the truth, but it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like I'd lost everything. Hours later, Ryan called. "Miah knows," I told him, my voice hollow. "I told her." He was quiet for a long moment. "How is she?" "Gone," I said. "She left. I don't know where." "I'm coming over," he said, but I stopped him. "No. I need to fix this. Alone." I spent the rest of the day waiting for Miah, but she didn't come home. Her absence was a weight I couldn't shake, a reminder of the damage I'd done. I didn't know if she'd ever forgive me, but I had to try. Miah didn't come home that night, or the next. I called her, texted her, but she didn't respond. The apartment felt like a ghost town, every corner haunted by memories of her laughter, her warmth. I'd broken us, and I didn't know how to put the pieces back together. Ryan kept his distance, giving me space to process. But his absence only made things worse. I missed him, missed the way he made me feel seen. But I hated him too, for starting this, for making me want something I couldn't have. On the third day, Miah finally texted, "Meet me at the cafe. Noon." My heart leapt, but I was terrified. What if she hated me forever? What if I'd lost her for good? I got to the cafe early, my hands sweaty as I waited. When Miah walked in, she looked exhausted, her eyes red-rimmed. She sat across from me, her expression unreadable. "Why, Ethan?" she asked, her voice quiet but sharp. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I was scared," I admitted. "I didn't want to hurt you." "You did anyway," she said, her voice breaking. "You're my brother. I trusted you." "I know," I said, my throat tight. "I'll do anything to make this right." She looked away, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Ryan told me he's in love with you. Is it true? Do you love him?" I hesitated, then nodded. "I do. But I love you more. You're my family." She laughed, a bitter sound. "Family doesn't do this, Ethan." "I know," I said. "I'm so sorry." We sat in silence, the weight of our broken trust between us. Finally, she spoke. "I need time. I don't know if I can forgive you, but I don't want to lose you either." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. I nodded, tears in my eyes. "I'll wait. As long as it takes." She left without another word, and I stayed at the cafe, staring at my untouched coffee. I didn't know what came next, but for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe we could rebuild. Maybe we could be okay. Weeks passed, and Miah and I tiptoed around each other, strangers in our own home. She moved out for a while, staying with a friend, but we kept talking short, careful conversations that felt like laying bricks for a new foundation. It was slow, painful, but it was something. Ryan and I didn't see each other. He'd broken up with Miah, and she'd told me it was mutual, that she'd known for a while he wasn't fully hers. It didn't make me feel better. If anything, it made the guilt heavier, knowing she'd sensed the truth before I'd said it. One night, I found a letter slipped under the apartment door. It was from Ryan, handwritten, the ink slightly smudged. "Ethan, I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I'm moving to Seattle for a new job. I hope you find peace, and I hope you keep writing. You're braver than you think. Ryan." I read it over and over, my heart aching. I loved him, but I couldn't have him not without losing Miah. And she was worth more than that. I tucked the letter into my notebook, a reminder of what I'd almost lost. Months later, Miah and I were better. Not perfect, but better. We laughed again, shared stories, rebuilt what we could. I started submitting my writing, small pieces at first, then bigger ones. One got published, and Miah was the first to read it, her eyes shining with pride. "You're going to be okay, Ethan," she said one night, handing me a beer. "We both are." I smiled, and for the first time in a long time, it felt real. Love had broken us, but it was love that put us back together, not the reckless, consuming kind, but the quiet, steady kind that only family can give. I didn't know if I'd ever see Ryan again, but I knew I'd carry him with me, a chapter in my story I'd never forget. And as I sat there with Miah, the rain tapping against the windows, I realized something else. I was finally ready to let the world see me.